As consumers, we are bombarded by it at every turn, like the Incredible Hulk being bombarded by gamma rays. But what makes some media endure, while others are banished to the forgotten black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Who or what decides this? Hetero life mates Steve and Yahel want to know, and they want to know now. This is Obscurity Now.
And what's up, Obscurians? It's time for another episode of Obscurity Now, the show where we take a look at weird and almost forgotten pieces of media, and then we decide if they should be remembered for all of human history or tossed in the black void of obscurity, never to be heard from again. My name is Steve, and with me is a man who's known as the Layman Rider. It's
Yahel. How are you doing, Steve?
Doing great. Happy to be talking about some legit non-Power Rangers. I don't know. How do you pronounce that word that this thing is? It starts with a K. You know what I'm talking about.
I have no idea what it's called.
I have it written in my notes here somewhere, but you know what I'm talking about. It's Japanese superhero costume guys fighting weird-looking monster things. Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Excited to talk about Kamen Rider. It's Kamen, right?
Kamen?
Like the rapper.
I thought it was K.
Or is it K? Or is Kamen?
Yeah.
I can see that.
The
too.
weird thing here is that like a caiman in like other parts of the world, that's like another name for like an alligator or a crocodile. Yet the Kamen Rider is clearly inspired by I don't know, like a grasshopper or a mantis or something like that. I don't know. What's your reasoning behind that?
I assume Kamen doesn't mean that in Japanese. I'm actually looking it up right now.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to find an answer, but I could not, unfortunately.
So in Japanese, it means mask ball or masquerade ball. But I think it's just supposed to say like he's masked.
Right. Hence, the in other parts of the world, this is also known as, not just in the U.S. with our weird Saban ripoff, Kamen Rider is also known as the Masked Rider. So yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of the American Masked Rider, did you ever even watch that show back in the day?
No, I mean I've heard of this show before. I've always kind of like I feel like I've known about it, but I never watched any of it. The only like strictly Japanese, like non, Sabanicized kind of one of these shows that I ever watched. Yeah. Was Ultraman way back in the day. We used to rent it on VHS when I lived in Puerto Rico.
Hell yeah.
What about you? Did you ever watch this?
I did not. I think I may have caught the Sabanicized version, and I was actually considering doing that instead of this. But I figure we already looked at VR Troopers, and didn't we do another Sabanicized one? Well, I know
was in Tattooed Teenage Fighters from Beverly
Hills.
Yeah,
but that's not Saban. Clearly, the level of quality is sub Saban. Surprisingly, with that one.
But
still,
there is a step lower.
But still more.
It's like discovering.
What's that?
Sorry, I was just gonna say it's like discovering that there's something beneath the subatomic level.
Yes, but somehow more sincere and more fun, I'd say.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought we would go for the real deal this time, like the actual, source material that Saban continues to rip off to this day, and also it's in conjunction with Shin Kamen Rider, the feature film, is actually getting a theatrical release here in the U.S. Have you watched any of those Shin movies? It started with Shin Godzilla. I recently watched Shin Ultraman, which was pretty cool, and now they're doing Shin Kamen Rider. You ever check any of those out?
Nah, I'm waiting for them to do a special movie on Marker, and then I'll head out for that. But
Shin
no.
Marker? What?
They're gonna bring back Richard Grieco as Shin
But
Marker.
Why would the Japanese be interested in that?
Listen, I'm not here to judge their culture.
So you're telling me that Marker was big in Japan? Is that what you're saying?
That's what Richard Grieco is telling everyone.
Oh, I bet he is. Like, you can find him in a bar somewhere, like on Sunset Boulevard, and he's just like, Marker might not have been a big deal here in the US, but it's huge in Japan, trust me. And it's like,
Yeah, he's like, baby, right now, 70% of the televisions in Kyoto are showing Marker right now. Did you know that, baby?
so anything to basically like take home like the local like, alcoholic woman who hangs out in the
Yes,
bar.
yes, yes, yes.
That's like, why didn't we ever tell people that Estancia was huge in Japan when we probably did when we were handing out demos and stuff at
Well, I don't think we did, but we should have. We should have definitely been lying more.
yes, we should have, and then maybe the band would still be together to this day, but probably not. Uh,
Well, I think we'd be down one member at least, unfortunately.
yeah, well, I mean, we already had gone through so many drummers. Like, I mean, I assume we'd probably be
Yeah,
on our seventh one at that point. But anyway,
that's true.
without further
Yeah,
ado,
rest in peace, Phil.
yes, rest in peace, sincerely. Should we dive a little further into Rider Black?
Let's do it.
All right.
Welcome to your feature presentation.
All right, I guess we should have been more specific in the opening there that we're actually not covering the original Kamen Rider. We are covering Kamen Rider Black. I sort of perused a couple of these series. You can actually watch this one among many others on YouTube and Tubi for free, including the original Kamen Rider, which premiered all the way back in 1971, and they're still making Kamen Rider stuff to this day. I mean, that really says something about Kamen Rider, does it not?
It says that it's still being made. Since this is the only piece of Kamen Rider I've ever seen, I don't know what else I could say other than its popularity has endured. But yeah, I saw that they're still indeed making Kamen Rider stuff.
Right. I checked out one of the newer ones, which is called like Kamen Rider 01. And oh man, it was almost felt like sort of like the post Disney Marvelization of Kamen Rider, at least compared to this one, because it was so jokey. Like the lead played it so over the top, like not even being inside the Kamen Rider costume, where his acting was, I don't know, over like anime level of just like, but there's still a lot of fun there to watch for sure.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of not that I've seen a ton of live action Japanese media, but in almost every Japanese media that I've seen in live action, like they always have at least a few scenes where people are acting very over the top. No matter like how serious the subject matter is being treated, there's always like that anime-ish like actors like, oh, what? They do like stuff like that where it's super over the top. And I guess it's just, I don't know enough about the culture, but I guess it's just like a style thing.
Yeah, I
an
mean,
acting style
yeah,
or a choice.
this sort of weird like tones. I feel like there's a lot of that in Hong Kong cinema and in Chinese ones as well, where the majority of the film is like is taken pretty serious, and then for no reason they have like cartoony slapstick thrown in for whatever reason.
I mean, it even happens in this episode of Kamen Rider where, it's mostly taken like pretty seriously, and most of it is treated pretty deadly serious. But I can't remember if it's like his little sister or somebody at some point does like the whole like, kind of reaction to some minor thing.
She shows up and she's basically like Sailor Moon come to life.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, let's jump into some of the background here for Kamen Rider Black or Kamen Rider, I guess, depending on where you come from. I guess I've heard it both ways. So specifically, we are watching Kamen Rider Black Season 1, Episode 1, and the name of this episode is Black Transformation, which sounds like a weird like blaxploitation film from the 70s if you say it wrong, but it's Black! Exclamation point, Transformation. And Kamen Rider Black ran for 51 episodes, and it premiered October 4th, 1987, and ran to October 9th, 1988. And here's a synopsis. Kidnapped foster brothers Kotari Minamami and Nobu... wait. I forgot to give a sort of like a warning ahead of time. we're probably gonna butcher a lot of these names. Like I tried my best ahead of time to like rehearse them, but as you can tell, they're still gonna get butchered. So here we go. Please excuse our gaijin tongues. All right.
Yes.
Kidnapped foster brothers Kotaro Minamami and Nobuhiko Akuzaki were turned into cyborgs by the evil empire Golgum. Having managed to escape, Kotaro transforms into Kamen Rider Black, dedicated to fighting Golgum and searching for Nobuhiko. And Kamen Rider was created by Shotaro Ishimori, and he is known for basically creating the entire genre of what we're basically creating the entire genre. He created Super Sentai, which obviously Power Rangers comes from, something else called Cyborg 009, and he even worked on the original Astro Boy back in the day. Did you realize how long Japanese people live? Because this guy was born in like the 30s, and he only recently died. it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, they eat pretty healthy. By the way, is the genre that you were thinking of tokusatsu?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That's the genre that this stuff is in.
And well, and more specifically, it's also the henshin genre of human-sized transforming superheroes. So I don't know how it's both, but it is. Yeah, take that. So this specific episode was directed by Yoshuhaki Kobayashi. Oh wait, nope. That's yeah. There we go. And he directed other Super Sentai episodes. He also directed something called Space Sheriff Gavin, which I'm pretty sure VR Troopers, ripped footage from. He directed Ultraman Dyna, and this is random. Do you know that movie Contagion that came out like 10 years ago?
Yeah.
He played a bus driver in it for some reason. So yeah.
Weird.
And another cool little sort of connection is that he also directed the entire Japanese Spider-Man series, which we're going to be covering next week. And this was written by one guy, Shozu Urahara, and he also wrote Ultraman Dyna and Ultraman Tiga, Super Sentai, and the music, which, spoiler alert, I think is pretty awesome, is done by Eiji Kawamura. And he also worked on other Kamen Rider series. And now, Yahel, inquiring minds want to know who are some of these actors who worked in this film or show.
Well, I'm only going to go over a few. Something tells me we and our audience won't be too familiar with their work. But first of all, playing the part of Kotaru / the Kamen Rider, Tetsuo Kurata. He's been in a bunch of stuff. He's still actually, it looks like his latest credit is in 2021. It's something called Gosutu Diarizu or something like that, some kind of live action thing. But he's kept busy in the Kamen Rider universe and other series, as well as doing voices for video games. But yeah, he's got like 60-something credits to his name. I was going to point out the person that plays his brother, because his brother becomes Shadow Moon,
right,
if I remember correctly. That was Masanori Jisen.
Sounding good. Go with it.
Yeah, he only has 5 things in his resume, and they all seem to be Kamen Rider related.
Yeah, that seems to be the trend. Like, I guess all these guys kind of work with themselves in the Kamen Rider universe and just stick with that until the day they die, for the most part.
So yeah, and their father, who I assume will also come back later, is played by Takahito Hiroichi. And he is, that is the character, not the actor. Don't have anything else on him whatsoever. Just this.
Wow.
So good for him.
Yeah.
He has like no profile on IMDb. And then there's a bunch of other like ancillary characters. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much like the most important parts of the cast. There are like the 3 creatures that he has to deal with, but only one of them I could really find a credit for, Shozo Izuka. It says High Priest Darum, but I don't think their names really matter for this. I'm sorry. I did want to point out one more person on the cast. Their name is Masaki Terasoma. They played Shadow Moon also. It was weird. Like there's two different people credited for Shadow Moon.
Maybe it's you have the regular actor and a stuntman in the suit, possibly.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But the reason I wanted to bring him up, I don't know what exactly this person did. It's a little weird what part of this character they played on the thing, but they're still acting. They have 187 credits. Their most recent one is a TV series called I Got a Cheat Skill in Another World and Became Unrivaled in the Real World Too. Then they have another credit, also from this year, called Chilling in My 30s After Getting Fired from the Demon King's Army.
Wow. So this obviously must be like the translation from Japanese, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's got to be the
That's awesome.
translation,
I
but
love it. I love it.
yeah, yeah. Anyways, and like half of their stuff is basically stuff like that,
Hmm.
so it's great.
Fantastic.
But yeah, pretty much the cast there.
All right.
Nobody on Star Trek, unfortunately, this time.
But we have a contagion connection. That's got to be something, right?
Sure.
Everyone loves that movie. Everyone loves pandemic movies these days. So yeah, of course, this is produced by the Toei company, the legendary Toei company, who did all the other aforementioned, Super Sentai and Tokuhatsu shows, and of course the brand of Kamen Rider is owned by Bandai, and they still make awesome action figures, which you can see appearing here in the Obscuritron. So, should we jump into this dialogue-heavy episode?
Yeah, a very dialogue heavy. Did you know that Bandai teamed up with Apple to make a video game console in the 90s?
I did not. What was it called?
The Apple Pippin.
Oh
Although in Japan,
yeah,
the Bandai Apple
yeah.
Pippin.
I have
Yeah.
heard of
I have a
that.
video about it, folks. Go watch it.
You should. You should. What's the status on future wrestling with gaming videos?
So soon, Steve.
All right.
Soon.
Our inquiring minds want to know. I don't know why I keep saying that. All right. You ready to talk about this episode?
Yeah, let's
All
do
right.
it.
So basically, the music kicks off, and I think it's pretty awesome. How would you describe the Kamen Rider Black theme song?
It's good, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
catchy. It's almost Saban-esque, which is kind of weird,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think it fits really well. Obviously, you liked it, right? I mean, I think all the music in the show is pretty good.
Yeah, it's very new wavy, very of the time. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. One of the reasons why I chose this particular series was because it took place in the '80s, and it's got a lot of '80s aesthetic going for it. But yeah, I love how it starts sounding very sort of new wave, and then turn like the horns kick in like towards the end, and it turns into like your typical like Japanese like fusion city pop. It's just
Yeah, yeah,
very of the time. I mean, you could hear it in various anime of the '80s as well. I mean, obviously not the exact theme, but just sort of that style. And I don't know. Even though I'd never heard it before, it just felt very nostalgic, and I was like, yes, I did. I was like, yes. So the theme ends, and then we get helicopter footage. Oh, and by the way, like the beginning of this theme basically just shows, and this is like how most Kamen Rider TV shows begin. It's just him on the motorcycle driving around like in the suit, because you can't be a
yeah,
Kamen Rider unless you ride a motorcycle. Although in when I watched that Kamen Rider Zero whatever, I never actually saw a motorcycle. So I don't know. Maybe he gets it later. But anyway, that's just an aside. So the theme ends. The helicopter. We get helicopter footage of 1980s Tokyo, and then just random superimposed lightning strikes out of nowhere, and then a cloaked
yeah.
figure appears and walks vertically on the side of a skyscraper. How would you describe the effects here, Yahel?
Man, the effects throughout the whole thing, like they're much better than I thought they would be.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're bad, like it's pretty bad. But I will say, like, even though a lot of this, including this opening scene, is just like green screen
Mm-hmm.
stuff, they moved around. They like because they motion tracked a lot of stuff pretty well, I thought,
Mm-hmm.
with this green screen stuff, and they get the lighting right for a lot of the green
Yeah,
screen
yeah, yeah.
elements, which really helps it blend in much better than you would expect.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a little goofy, and I had to like watch the opening twice because I was like, what? How did they get there? Wait, are they like walking on a building sideways? It was like very weird. Uh, yeah, it looked like watching Batman and Robin kind of walking
Oh
down a
yeah,
building.
100%. Oh yeah, without their little quirks, and then the TV stars popping out of the window and going, "Hey, look at this! It's Kamen Rider." Or no,
Yeah,
wait, this
yeah,
cloaked weirdo walking down the building.
yeah,
Yeah, but I think they did the best with the technology they had at the time.
yeah, and the budget for
Mhm.
sure.
So now we are in the subway, and more lightning shows up, and this was this was fun. Another hooded figure appears like right in front of a subway train as it's coming towards it, and he just sort of hovers out of the way, and it was a lot of fun. And then we get even more lightning by a gang of street toughs, your very
Mm.
typical 80s street toughs. And another hooded figure appears. And this time we get to see his hideously, like, sort of pale face. I guess this is the leader of these
Yeah,
guys.
that's what I took it as.
hmm And we all,
So is he the only one that talks? I don't even remember. No, I think they all talk.
yeah, I mean, it's weird.
Because there's a female one and
hmm
then there's like two male ones. Yeah.
Exactly. And he's got blood red eyes, so watch out. And then, just out of nowhere, a man runs through the streets, hiding from the hooded creatures. This man ends up being known as Kutaru. And he, everything all right over there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just dropped the cap.
You're playing with your pogs while we're trying to podcast? Come on.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
My slammer fell.
So they shoot eye beams at him. He hides under some cars, and they basically sort of give up and they float away. Like, what do you think about? There's a lot of confusion, sort of at the. They don't give you anything at the beginning here. They just sort of throw you into the action. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I was a little confused at first. I was like, oh, is this, video that somebody uploaded? Like, I was like, is this incomplete
Yeah.
or something? But I mean, it's not bad. It was just a little confusing because I just wasn't used to it. But what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was confused at first too, but obviously, if you stick with it, pretty much everything is explained. I mean, and it's
Yeah, it's just because there's no dialogue for like 3 minutes,
right.
basically,
And I mean, it's only
maybe
a
more.
30-minute episode, but the pacing is really good here. So you're never really bored. So even though you might be confused, yeah, just stick with it, and it'll all pay off in the end. Um, So he hides under some cars, they float away, and then as Kotaro is running away, and again, they don't tell you his name or anything yet, he almost gets run over by a car. Then another hooded figure floats by and shoots fireballs out of his eyes but misses. I really appreciated the sound effects of the fireballs here. How about yourself?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, pretty good. And again, the special effects, like they're not good, but like they do a much better job of blending them into the environment that a lot of like shows that did these kind of like cheesy overlay effects were in the 80s. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, they're very charming. I mean, if you're ever a fan of like Godzilla or just any of that sort of, Japanese sci-fi, you'll feel right at home here.
And there's some like pretty decent like wire work stuff too, where he's like thrown against walls that and they like painted out the wires pretty
Oh
well.
yeah, we're about to get to that, and that was the scene that actually made me choose this. So Kotaru runs up the fire escape to the roof of the building, which I don't know if you're trying to escape the dudes. Why would you run up a building? But whatever, we're going with it. And now the three hooded beings are they're searching for him. Then they surround him and they say, "You cannot hide, Minari Kotaru. You will complete the cyborg operation." And they tell him he's no longer human, and they will prove it. And then one of the hooded man reaches for Kataru, but then he runs away. But then the white-faced hooded guy throws him into a neon sign with his telekinesis, and then Kutaru is electrocuted. What did you think about this scenario?
I mean, again, a lot of special effects here. They're very ambitious,
Mm-hmm.
but I thought it was fine. Definitely more action than you would like see in a Power Rangers show.
Sure.
A lot more violent, I thought, this episode overall too. Like later on we'll see like they actually kill somebody.
Yep.
You don't see that in Power Rangers, at least not the Saban version. So
hmm
yeah, I liked it. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was on board up to this moment. I'm like, yes, he gets fried on a neon sign. That's how I want to go, Yahel. Like thrown into a neon sign by a guy with telekinesis. And but spoiler alert, Kutaru doesn't die because then we wouldn't have a show. So then we get another sort of confusing hard cut to a like a room of dozens of people sitting on hospital beds with like basically pipes running into them. The hooded guy says, "Once we erase their human memories, the cyborg operation will be complete." And then he pulls off the sheet of one of the people to reveal that it's Kotaru. And then a man in a suit shows up, who's later revealed to be it is the professor, right? Or is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And he tells the hooded guy, he's like, "No, that wasn't part of the deal. You can't erase their memory. These are my sons." And
Quite the reveal.
yeah. I mean, I tried to find a dub of this, but I mean, we went with what we have.
Yeah, I looked for a dub too, and
Yeah, there's a
I do worry about some of these translations, but you never know. It's also like a show from that time, you know.
right, exactly. Yeah, these are his son. It's Professor Azuki, and the white face tells the professor they're no longer your sons, and that Kotaro is now, or not Kotaro, but one of them is the black son, and he will be a century king. He extends like these weird see-through finger claws that shoots lasers at Kotaro's stomach. What did you think about this effect?
Honestly, I thought it was pretty
Oh, I
good
loved
because
it.
like so he's moving this guy that's doing the with the claws that's like shooting these lasers, and it's like a laser from each finger coming to a point, so it's
hmm
doing like a 3D triangle, and it actually looked pretty good. And his hands moving, and the tracking again is really good. They like changed the lighting too in the scene to follow it. So honestly, it looked really good.
Oh yeah, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic, and just the fact that they went to, it's like, oh, these claws have to be see through for some reason. Like they just can't be
Right.
like black nails or something. It's just it shows the imagination of
It almost makes you wonder if like the claws were like superimposed, and like it's easier to like keep the laser and the claw like as like a thing that's together, because it's not as difficult to tell like if it's not lined up quite with the finger.
oh
You've
yeah,
got a little more wiggle
because
room,
like
and the audience isn't paying attention to the
right.
finger, they're paying attention to the laser.
Yeah, because if you watch those like old school Doctor Who, whenever they try to superimpose a laser on a gun, it's always like an inch or two off. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if it moves. Yeah. Same thing
hmm
with like old Star Trek.
Yep.
So yeah, I that's how I would have done it.
So, white faced robe dude is, shooting lasers at Kutaro's abdomen, and then the professor intervenes, stopping white faced guy. One of the robe guys then shoots Professor with lasers, and basically all hell breaks loose. And then Kutaro wakes up back on the floor of the building, after being, fried on that neon sign. And the robe guy tells Kutaro he will one day rule over them as king of the mutants, which, I mean, kind of confusing. It's like I guess they have to force him to become a full-on cyborg so he can be their king. Is that
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense because it's like, so he's gonna be a king, but they also then later say that he'd be like their puppet, or like
Mhm.
he thinks he'd be their puppet if he's the king. So I guess it'd just be king in title. Because otherwise, I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll become king, and then I'll do whatever I want.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a little confusing. But so yeah, Kutaro, as Yahel just said, responds with, "I refuse to be your puppet." And then the robed guy picks up Kutaro, and they all float away. Or all the robed guys, they sort of surround him. They pick him up. And they float like into the sky over Tokyo. Kutaro wiggles away and falls to the roof of a building, where they follow him. white face guy smashes Kotaro again and again and again against the wall with his mind, and this scene was just it's pretty intense. I was like, wow, they're really taking this seriously, and that's kind of what made me choose this. What
Yeah.
did you think of that?
Yeah, I was surprised too, like by the level of the stakes. I actually feel like there's really there because I expected this to be, more in the vein. I knew it would be like a little bit more serious than like Power Rangers, because it's the source material. But yeah, I'm totally on board with everything you're saying, Steve. If what you're saying was a bicycle, I would came and ride it.
Oh God!
I
So what
don't
you're
know.
saying is I'm your Century King, not just a puppet.
Yes,
Yeah. All right. That's what
right,
I like to
right.
hear. All right. So Kotaro transforms into Kamen Rider, but it's weird because they don't really show it. They sort of just hard cut to it. Like, that's what
Hmm.
happened, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like it's very weird. There's not a lot of transformation effects. Usually like they on these kind of shows they'll piece together like the costume, do something. He just kind of is
But
there.
see, we get that later. Do you think they didn't?
Yeah, but even that's like not a good transition either. It's like they just like use some like filters mostly, don't they?
I mean, I think that's what I mean. I thought it was a pretty fully formed, transformation scene at the end.
Maybe I'm misremembering it. It's,
Because
it's very
yeah, they have
possible.
all your typical wacky colors, and I just didn't understand why we didn't get to see the transformation here. Maybe they didn't have enough money, or they were actually saving it to the end because they know that the audience is anticipating it, subverting the audience's expectations, as
Yeah.
people like to do now. But anyway. So we get a pretty awesome battle here, mostly in slow motion. The robe guys float away. Then the common cycle shows up. We see the three robe guys, or cut to, we see the three robe guys in their lair. How would you describe their lair?
Cheap. Uh, that's how I describe it. Cheap and dimly lit.
Right, yeah, with a lot of fog, and there's even bats, because that's how you know someone is bad, if they've got
Yeah,
bats.
even like the Dungeon of Doom from WCW's lair was more elaborate and brightly lit.
True, true, but I think this one has more atmosphere. So
Yeah,
they
definitely.
say Shadow Moon will meet Black Sun soon enough. And then now we cut to Kamen Rider riding his bike, which I think that's another thing the audience is always expected to see in these shows. Then he transforms back into Kotaro again with absolutely no fanfare or anything. It's just hard cut, and then regular Kotaro on his bike. Were you confused by this hard cut as I was?
I mean, surprised by
Mm-hmm.
it would be more than anything because yeah, there's no explanation about his transformation, how it works, what he has to do to transform.
Mm-hmm.
How does he know to do this? I guess it's instinct, but we only watched the first episode, right? So there may be presumably more explanation in the second episode. And actually, before I forget, did you stick around to watch the preview for the next
I
episode?
did. I did.
Yeah, so on the next episode, it looks like they're going to give way more backstory and build and world building
Yeah.
than in this one.
I mean,
So, you know,
I guess I should probably save it for the end, but I mean, I like how this first episode unfolded. You don't know what's going on, but a lot of cool stuff is happening, and there's a lot of action. I mean, what more?
yeah, 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 I
Yeah.
liked it too.
So all right. Kamen Rider rides his bike. He transforms and basically, when with that hard cut, I was basically like, that is the Kamen Rider, right? Or is Kotaro not the Kamen Rider? It just made me question things. But then, if you stick,
Oh, I see where you're coming
yeah,
from. Yeah, I didn't get that confusion, but I could see how someone could be
but yeah,
confused
but
about
if you
it.
stick with it, obviously you realize that it's him. So anyway, he goes back, or he goes to a house, and it's weird the way he's walking around in it. You think he broke into someone's house? He's kind of like sneaking around. Did you get those vibes?
Yeah, yeah, definitely felt that way.
And then as he's doing so, he remembers being experimented on, and you hear his like in his mind, he's like, but why was Dad there? Just I loved it. It was awesome. And then he finds a note, and it says, "Come alone to the abandoned building." Now, when I saw him reading the note, I was like, did one of the robed guys put that there? Does it say that it was from his dad at this point?
No, the note didn't say, at least not in the dubs or subs that I was watching. Yeah, it was a little weird because then it's also like, well, why don't you just, if you were able to go to his house to drop off this note, why don't you just wait for
Yeah,
him to show up?
exactly. Well, I mean, the answer is so they can have a big battle, or
Yeah, yeah,
but yeah, I mean, that was exactly what I was thinking, and also I was like,
it would have made more sense if it would have been like a letter, like like sent via mail or something like ahead of time because they knew this was going to happen,
right.
and he's opening the envelope. That would have made a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess also the idea is that they want to keep Kotaro's sister and mom like out of it, possibly.
I don't think it's his
Yeah,
mom. I thought it was his mom till the
right.
end.
Yeah, same here. That's why I say mom with a question mark. It's
Yeah.
just more confusion that I guess hopefully gets cleared up in the second and third episode. But yeah, like when he was like, come to the abandoned building, I was like, what is this? Like an episode of like Miami Vice where like the bad guy like kidnaps like Crockett's girlfriend and like leaves a note. It's like,
Right,
yeah,
right.
bring the money and like come. Yeah, it's just pretty hilarious. But anyway, so two women show up. You have no idea who they are, but they're revealed to be Kotaro's sister and mom with a question mark. We'll just call her that. And so they're talking with Kotaro. So apparently he was supposed to be in the house all along. Um, and she throws like a thing of juice at Kotaro because I guess that's just how they're just so relaxed with their bottles and juice and stuff in the Kotaro household that they're just like, here, have some juice. And he catches it, and of course he smashes it. Very sort of typical superhero tropey thing.
Yeah, like he like breaks it in his hand like while holding it like he's oh my God, what's his name from Garth Marenghi's Dark Place?
Oh yeah,
Like he's Dean Lerner, he crushes it, like a styrofoam cup.
right. Yeah, that was awesome. So yeah, of course, like sis and mom with a question mark are just like, oh well, how did he do that? And nothing really else happens in that scene. He just leaves on his motorcycle, and and there's a scene where, or I should say, a shot where he's talking to his mom and sister, and he's like looking out a window, and they talk to him, and he like turns back like this, really dynamic, almost like Adam West Batman or something. And I'm
Hmm.
like, yes, like that's what I want in my Japanese superhero TV show. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. That kind of little bit of camp, a little bit of cheese.
Yeah. It's awesome. So yeah, Kotaro leaves on his motorcycle, then arrives at the aforementioned abandoned building where his dad is just standing there in the middle of the building. And basically, Dad, aka Professor Akuzaki, who we saw in the flashback at the beginning of the episode, says that he's a member of Gorgum, that he sold himself to them, and that it's time he learned the truth. And then we get a flashback. It all began 19 years ago. Kotaro's real parents died, and since Professor Akuzaki was friends with him, he went ahead and took Kotaro under his wing, and he and Nobuhiko, who I was gonna save this to the end, but like they talk about Nobuhiko, aka Kotaro's like fake brother or stepbrother, whatever you want to call it, so much, but we only get to see him in flashback. We never get to meet him in person. Like, is
The only time we see him in present real time is when he's like on the table, being experimented on or whatever. And then later, like when he's in the Shadow Moon form, but they tell him, "Oh, but you must sleep for now." The three evil spirits, like.
right, right. So
But no, but I will say Nobu. What is he again?
Hiku, yeah,
Nobuiko.
Nobuhiko.
He is in quite a few
Yeah, I mean,
episodes.
I figure the in
You
typical
know,
superhero fashion, they'll probably fight at first and then team up to take on Gorgum. But yeah, so there was a funny when he's talking about them, being raised together as brothers. It shows them playing together in the
Oh
shower.
my god. Yes. Yes, they're both in the shower together. They're fighting over a bar of
And the
soap.
weird, this has got to be the weirdest edit
But
in history because they drop the soap, it slides over to the drain, and then they slowly dissolve to the next scene. Like it makes the mind wonder, like what happened after the.
that had to be on
But
purpose. Like
it's like, are they? Excuse the language here, but it's like, are they fucking with us?
I think they might be fucking.
Yeah, well, that's like, do they want us to think that? It was so bizarre. I was like, that's got to be like the editor, like just sort of messing with
Yeah.
us here.
And like theoretically, or not theoretically, but like, according to the show, this is a flashback. So at this point, they don't even know that they're adopted
Right. Yeah. So
brothers,
that makes it even worse. But
That makes it
yeah, but
incestuous if they are. At least in their
if you
minds.
dig into the depraved world of Japanese pornography, I mean, that might be something they're into. I don't know. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to judge.
Step brother. What are you doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, Kamen Rider was ahead of the curve here.
Yeah, I guess so. So, all right, now after that bizarre crossfade, we're back with the professor and Kotaro. Professor says that Kotaro's dad and himself were really into ancient ruins back then. Which, remember when you and I used to be into ancient ruins, Yahel? I mean, those were
Yeah.
the days.
I think that's code for like showering together and fighting over soap. And they've passed down the tradition to their sons.
Yeah, the episode really took a turn after the shower scene. Yeah, they were really into ancient ruins, but then they had trouble getting funding, and that's when Gorgum offered to sponsor them. And that's when it got me thinking, like, what is like Gorgum, or like at least what it represents? Is Gorgum just basically a giant faceless corporation? Are they like BlackRock or something?
Yeah, well, I mean, I assume that they're like a criminal organization, but also like some kind of corporation
Mm-hmm.
on Earth.
That
That's how I
Yeah, that
took it to
these
be.
weird like robed alien demon things created.
Right, right. That's kind of like I'm reading about it
Mm.
now. Probably should have read about it. I don't know, before the
Shh,
podcast,
don't say
perhaps.
that. Don't tell them.
But no, I mean, I guess not. I guess they're not a corporation, but obviously they have money
Hmm.
because they're offered to sponsor this. But I guess much like Cobra, who has like billions and trillions, if not of dollars,
Right.
like they just have money to do evil things with.
Hmm. All right. Well, I'll go with that. So yeah, Gorgum sponsors them. Kotaro's father refuses, and Gorgum kills him. But basically, the prof was like, "Oh, I was on board. I took their money and basically did whatever they told me to do." And so Kotaro freaks out and he asks him how he could join Gorgum, to which the professor replies, "No one can run from Gorgum. Their evil knows no bounds." So Gorgum, yeah, all right, I already made that joke. Then lightning strikes and a bunch of monsters arise from the ground. Uh, the prof tells Kokoro to submit to Gorgum, and that he and his other brother will be Century Kings. And of course, Kotaro, ever the rebel, says no, and he runs away. But then he sees his dad. It's weird. All right, so it gets a little weird here again. He runs away, but then somehow he and Professor, they meet again, and then they realize that the monsters are coming after them. Um, did I do that right?
Yeah, I think you did it right.
It's so bizarre, but that's what happens. And
Yeah.
now,
Oh, and by the way, I did find out that the person who at first seems to be the mother
mhm,
of Shadow Moon and Kamen Rider is actually the girlfriend of one Shadow Moon, aka Nobiko. No,
so
Nobuiko.
you're saying we got some stepmom stuff going on here in addition to stepbrother stuff?
No. She's the girlfriend of his stepbrother.
Oh, I see. I see now.
So maybe there's going to be like a love triangle.
Of course.
Would be my guess.
Gotcha. So, all right, what I want to know from you here, describe these monsters that show up.
I don't even remember what they look like, to be honest.
All right, here,
Do you remember the?
let me jog your
Do you
memory.
remember the name?
I don't
Okay.
remember what they're called. I don't think they're ever really given a name, but they look like bees or insects of some sort, but they shoot web.
Oh, that's right. They're like weird
Yeah,
spidery
but their
kind of
faces are all really
things, but
messed
they.
up.
Yeah. Like their faces look more like insect than. I mean, I
Well,
guess a
no, it's
spider is
like
an insect,
it's
but
weird
you know what I mean.
human white faces, but then they got the weird sort of little like roach things around the mouth. Then they've got
Yeah, so I found a picture of them. Yeah, they're called spider
okay,
mutants. And yeah, they've got like big red bug eyes at the top, like where their forehead would be. And then underneath are like regular
yeah,
eyes. But yeah, like their face is like really weird. They almost have like predator
yeah,
teeth too, like predator
right,
like things
yeah,
coming
yeah.
out.
So nightmare fuel for an 8-year-old, I would say. Um,
Yeah, I mean even maybe for a 42-year-old as
it's
well.
all right. Hey, if you can't sleep tonight, you give me a call, or actually, you know what? Just come over and we'll take a shower together as usual.
Finally.
So the bee things take Kotaro's dad up into a water tower. Or actually, before that, there's like a battle between Kotaro and the bee guys. But then, yeah, they eventually get the professor slash fake dad, bring him up to a water tower. They drop him. Um, and I think as that happens, we finally see the full transformation of Kotaro into Kamen Rider. And I mean, I remember it being awesome. It's pretty much everything you want in your, sort of a Japanese superhero show transformation. A lot of crazy colors, sort of like, streaming out from some apex. And yeah, a lot of shit just sort of disappearing and reappearing. And then he becomes a Kamen Rider. And
Yeah, yeah.
so they drop Kotaro's dad, and he runs to try to catch him, but he's too slow, and he basically he falls. Kotaro's dad tells him to take care of the others. I guess talking about his brothers, and no, I'm sorry, it's after his dad dies. That's when he transforms into Kamen Rider. And it's weird though. After his dad dies, there's like a weird wrist tattoo with numbers on it.
Yeah, on his dad's wrist.
So they try. There's a big battle between Kamen Rider and the what did you call them? Spider mutants. Yeah, and
Yeah.
they try to tie him up with the web, but then Kamen Rider uses his remote control that's inside his suit to make the Kamen Bike show up. The Kamen Bike runs over the webs, like freeing him. And it's awesome. It's cheesy and awesome. Or I don't know. What do you think about everything that's happened so
Yeah,
far?
yeah. I thought it was pretty cool. Like the way they did the spiders capturing them in webs was pretty
Hmm.
interesting. They basically have them shoot out like a liquid, but it's like a thick liquid. You know what it reminded me of is like the Spider-Man fluid,
From
because
from like the
just
70s
from
or
Spider-Man.
oh yeah,
No,
yeah,
like
sure.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah, because like
absolutely.
it shoots out as a liquid kind of thing, but then it like hardens into like the webbing
Right.
kind of a thing. So that's kind of what they
I'm
did. And
sure they
yeah,
were
I liked
I'm
it.
sure they were probably inspired by that, or maybe they just like were trying to save a buck. It's like we're gonna use the web shooters from the Japanese Spider-Man. We're gonna use it here for Kamen Rider Black.
Probably.
Yeah, since they use the same director. But so yeah, I mean, you got to think that they must know that the audience absolutely loves that Kamen Rider motorcycle because they could have had it show up at the same time as he transforms into Kamen Rider, but they're like, no, no. The director, he's like, we're gonna make them like build with anticipation for that bike to show up, and when it does, they're gonna get the old claps.
I mean, it is kind of like his, I guess, instead of like, Voltroning into like a big creature, it's
Hmm.
kind of like his big last ditch effort.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then so yeah, motorcycle cuts the webs, and then he gets up and he calls out like "Common Punch," and then he punches some of the spider mutants. Then there's even a common kick. I didn't even know about these. And yeah, he's taking them out, and you can really see just I don't know the awesome sort of influence that something like Kamen Rider would have over, say, like a Street Fighter, where you yell out your move as you're doing it.
Yeah.
And then it continues onward. Then they all disappear in a weird electronic fire. What did you think of that?
I was a little like it was a little anticlimactic, but I guess they're just like really trying to build for the next episode anyway, so they don't want to give you too many answers. You don't get too much satisfaction. But I'm glad that they at least made the spider mutants like a threat by having them kill someone.
Yeah. I mean, it also made it in sort of classic action movie trope, it made it personal because they killed his dad, and now Kotaro gets pissed and he turns into the Kamen Rider, beats all their asses. They all disappear, and then Kotaro's sister and, I don't know, his brother's girlfriend, which Yahel revealed, they show up and they find Dad's corpse just laying on the ground, and she like hugs him and cries over it, as you're wont to do. And then we see Kamen Rider like walking to the camera in slow motion, just like a complete badass. And then we get a sort of voiceover, and he's like, Kamen Rider Black, defender of liberty and freedom. And they say some other stuff, and then basically that is the end of Kamen Rider Black, episode 1. Did you have anything else you wanted to add about those last couple scenes?
No, it was pretty good. Lots of action. Again, the end does feel a little anticlimactic, but it's a thing where also if you stick through the credits and watch the preview for the next episode, you can kind of see why they did it that way.
Yeah.
This is like clearly a serialized show, not like your one-off episodic kind of storytelling you'd see in those Saban-ized versions.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, you ready to render your verdict on Kamen Rider Black?
Indeed.
Remembered or obliterated? That's the question.
All right, so Yahel Velasquez, should Kamen Rider Black be remembered for all of human history, or should it be tossed in the black void of obscurity, never to be heard from again?
I say keep it. I really liked it. I'm not going to watch anymore or anything, but I really liked it. Special effects, like I said, they're fun. They have their charm to them when they're bad, and a lot of times they're actually pretty good. Well, what about you?
Yeah, I loved it. The effects were fun. It has a fast pace, so you're never really bored. I really like that everyone committed, and it's never really taken as a joke. And I would like to watch more. I probably won't, just because I just don't have the time. But my question to you is, do you think you'll check out Shin Kamen Rider at some point? Because it's kind of like a reimagining of like the whole series and like sort of like a new jumping off point. Do you think you will ever watch it?
Probably not. I mean, I'm not like,
Boo.
well, I'm not a huge fan of this genre. Like, I don't have a problem with it, but like you, I don't have a lot of time in my life for stuff I'm gonna watch, and I've got lots of other things already like lined up. I mean, I guess if depends how long this writer strike goes on, I guess maybe I'll get desperate and start watching some of this stuff. But am I gonna watch this before, say, another episode of Baywatch Nights? No.
Well, I mean,
maybe if it was dubbed too, because the thing is, you can't have this on in the background.
Right.
And I just finished watching 110 episodes of Legend of the Galactic Heroes dubbed, so I'm a little dubbed out, or not dubbed, but subbed.
Mm-hmm.
And Kamen Rider, subbed. I couldn't find a dubbed version, so.
Well, there are other series, just not Kamen Rider Black. For whatever reason, it's not dubbed. So for all those reasons, Kamen Rider Black shall be remembered.
In accordance to Obscurity Now, the most important streaming YouTube podcast in all of the internet, you shall be remembered. Yes. Good show. Good show.
All right. Well, I think it's funny you said, yeah, we've got a writer strike, but we don't have a common writer strike now, do we?
I gotta go.
There's still plenty of common writer media coming your way. But
I see Steve has transformed into a terrible person.
I always was. I was just faking before.
That's true. That's true. Oh, Steve, how did your comic book convention visit go?
Thank you for asking me. And I thought it went pretty well. I didn't really know what to expect. Other indie creators, some of them are like, "Oh, that's where I make all my sales," and other people are like, "Woo woo, I just sit there and watch all the phonies make a bunch of money." But we sold enough to at least cover the cost of getting the table at the con.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
good.
now did it cover like gas and food and the hotel?
Right,
Probably
right.
not, but I met a lot of really cool people. Some people were like, because I was pitching hard. Like anyone who like walked by the table, if they even like, half looked at me, I was like, hey, you look like a guy who's into action, adventure, and dinosaurs. And
So you're basically Mike Labaska at the bar, our friend. To any woman that dares to makes a mistake of making eye
well,
contact.
maybe not as desperate as him, but no, I was pretty desperate just because, like, I mean, honestly, after I got through the Kickstarter and, and then a few sales here and there, I mean, my books have just been pretty much sitting in boxes, waiting to be discovered. So, yeah, I mean, I was more than happy to try to sell to as many people as possible. And yeah, and there were a
Yeah.
few people who were like, "Oh, I don't normally read comics, but I really liked your pitch and I liked the art, so give me one." And then there were,
Yeah, it's great.
yeah. I mean, I was elated, and then there were a few people who, I mean, I guess they were all in on indie comics, and they like took a picture with me and bought both covers and stuff.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, it was a learning situation. Like I forgot to get.
I'm sure there were some people that were like, "Hey, man, my dad was killed by a dinosaur. Fuck you." Uh,
Yeah. They called me
how dare
unpatriotic.
you monetize my father's death?
There was more than that than you'd think. But yeah, the weird thing is, I didn't really have a lot of time to walk the floor, but I did have time to finally talk to one Wills Portacio, founding
I was gonna
member.
say Rob Liefeld.
He wasn't there. I wish he was, but he wasn't.
I thought he might have shown up to yell at you.
Hey, you. Well, I mean, yeah, the con was pretty close to where he lives. Assuming he lives in Anaheim, California, still. But
Slaps you with the crotch of a Levi's button-up 501 button-up jeans. That's how he challenges you to a fight.
that's how he challenges everyone, I hear. But no, Wills was really nice. Got his signature. I mean, I would love.
And it is Wills.
Yes, it's Wills. Um, and we talked a little bit, but he had a line, not a huge line, and I had to get back to slinging books. So yeah, that was cool. I mean, and there was also, I mean, Chris Claremont was there and Jim
Oh, nice.
Starlin.
I'm actually a fan of Claremont.
Yeah. I mean, but their lines were always so long. I never had a
Oh, I'm
chance to
sure.
to talk to them. So yeah, overall, it was a great experience. I look forward to the next one, and I have to mention, I would say, if you're like employee one of Reptilian Media, then my friend Rob is employee two, who helped. Basically, he came with me, helped us set up and sell books and stuff. So if he
He's
happened,
my shadow moon. I'll
yeah,
kill him.
you're gonna have to come here one day and like, yeah, you guys are gonna have to fight for that number one
Yeah, I
position.
figure.
Because yeah, we're like Gorgum, baby. I mean, Reptilian Media is basically Gorgum. We're just killing dudes,
Well,
and I don't know. But
tell Rob I'll bring the soap.
you guys actually do. You guys actually do remind me of one another in some aspects. But yeah,
Tell him I'll bring the zest.
yeah. But I mean, aren't you going to a con soon? At least as I don't know, as a guest.
Yeah, I'll be going to Portland Retro Gaming Expo here in a few months.
Nice, yeah. I need to look and see if there's any. I'm sure there aren't any tables available, and if they are, I'm sure they're very expensive. But I'm gonna have to look into that. Yeah, well, I guess if there's not anything else, I guess that's our show. What do you think?
I think we're good to Kamen Rider. Yes,
Came and ride into the sunset.
Well, I couldn't think of any puns, and then I thought about how terrible yours were, and I was like, I don't want to live my life like that.
But people watch this show for the puns, Yahel. The puns.
Yeah, I'm sure. So they watch it for. They watch it to hear about my vasectomy.
Oh, there we go. I knew you'd find a way to work it in.
We're a month away from the anniversary.
We'll have a.
That's right, everybody. Get ready for vasectomy month on Obscurity Now in the month of July.
Are we going to celebrate our 100th episode? No, but we are going to celebrate the year anniversary of Yahel's vasectomy.
There's a reason why I got it done the 4th of July weekend. It's freedom.
So you could say that the fireworks are for your vasectomy and not for the independence of the United States.
Well, I meant more that it's free. It symbolizes the freedom I have from children.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I am
fatherhood.
oppressed, 100% oppressed.
Yes.
By my. Did you? I'm sure you did watch, but did you see Blade's big stage debut at his little daycare on Facebook?
No, I missed it.
It's all right. Yeah, I mean, basically, I don't know. His they had a little like spring sort of whatever, and he and his classmates danced to "You Can't Touch This" and "Bad" by Michael Jackson. So, they were trying to send a clear message to the Hollywood community with "You Can't Touch This." If you get.
Yeah, I guess so. Good for him to set those boundaries earlier.
Yeah, I think so. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show. We will be back next Sunday with the Japanese Spider-Man. So, until then. We'll see you next time on Obscurity Now, where we continue to unearth more obscure media. Take care. We'll see you then.
You've been enjoying Obscurity Now, a podcast that's recorded live to tape and streamed to Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or hilarious quip. Take us with you by following the download links provided in the show notes to wherever you get podcasts. And take notice of our various social media links. If that's what you're into, I'm not here to judge. And make sure you join us live next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now.